So I'm Lee Hower, partner at NextView Ventures. I'm here with John and Max, the co-founders of Ultra. So thanks for being here, guys. Appreciate having the conversation. So we've been working with Ultra since the fall of 2024. We were one of the lead investors in the seed round of the company. And we'll talk more about this later, but this is our first time working together, so it's been neat. Why don't we start at the beginning, start at the top. Tell us just very briefly, what is Ultra and what does Ultra do?
At Ultra, we're building AI-powered warehouse robots. These are robots that are eventually going to be general purpose, but today we're actually specializing on a specific task, which is order packaging in e-commerce fulfillment centers. We started the company less than a year ago, and we already have multiple robots deployed across different warehouses that are automating order packaging. And so this is where literally when you place an order online for some sort of product, someone in a warehouse grabs that product off of a shelf, brings it to a pack out station, and then a person today actually puts it into a mailer or a cardboard box. And so we're building robots to automate that last step of the process.
Cool. Let's go back. Let's rewind the clock a little bit. Tell us, this is not your first company for either of you. In fact, it's not even your first company together. You know, what's for both of you guys, what was your journey into entrepreneurship? Do you have childhood memories of being entrepreneurially minded or being interested in business? Or what was the entrepreneurial spark for each of you? I'd love both of you to answer.
You got at this, but John and I have been working together for over 10 years, 13 years now. And I think I still remember the conversation. We went to college together, sitting in the dining hall, talking about what we wanted to do that summer. We had some internships lined up, but I think both of us had this just like latent desire to start something that was our own. And at the time it was like, okay, let's do it. We turned down our internships, which felt like a wild thing to do. Paying job that summer, we were engineers, and we just got off to the races. And so in our senior year of college, we started our first company together, which was a software company for 3D printers. Yeah.
What about for you, John? Did you have an entrepreneur streak in you early in life? Were you in a family of entrepreneurs, or what was the spark?
My father is a doctor, my mother was a lawyer, so it wasn't quite in the family. My childhood was filled with a variety of money-making schemes. One way or another, I was always thinking about how do I turn $1 into more than just a dollar. But at the same time, I just grew up having a passion, loving building things. And early on, I discovered the space of robotics. And actually, both Max and I were both on our high school first robotics teams, so a national program or a global program even. Yeah. And yeah, Max and I were both on trajectories to basically become engineers. And we were doing this from the time we were in high school. This is how we met in college at Harvey Mudd while studying for a chemical engineering test. I think that something about starting a company and basically being in control of your destiny and being able to focus on the thing that you're building as opposed to all of the politics or career ladder, that was really what got me excited. And then the spark was just having the idea, right? And I think it was that moment of, wait a second, like we don't have to go work for someone else working on their thing. Instead, we can just take this idea that we just had, and we don't know whether it's good or not, but we're going to explore it and we're going to push it forward for as long as we can. And that was just like such an enabling, amazing feeling.
That's great. As you think about Ultra, and we'll get more into Ultra specifically very shortly, but when you started the company not even a year ago, what were the aha moments that were like, this is the problem we want to go work on?
Max and I have been thinking about building robots for a long time. And our last company, which we can talk more about, Voodoo Manufacturing, we built 2 factories. And in those factories, we had robotic systems that we used to automate as much of the labor as possible. So we were trying to basically build AWS for manufacturing, lights out factories where everything was automated with software and robotics. And it was incredibly hard to build these systems, to make them operate reliably day after day. But when they worked, it was amazing. It was like a superpower that we had given to our factory team. And this was in 2017 approximately. So, what I'd call the last generation of robotics. And at the time, the kind of cutting edge technology, everything was relatively brittle. So if anything in the room changes, if the layout changes, even as the temperature shifted over seasons, the whole building would slightly sway and the robot would stop working. And so we were just constantly frustrated by how hard it was to get these robots to work reliably. So fast forward a number of years, the kind of creation of AI, large language models, foundational models, has now ushered in this totally new era of robotics where we can use those same technologies that power ChatGPT to control robots and have them do amazing things that would have been impossible just a couple of years ago. And Max and I, before we started Ultra, we were each kind of doing our separate things. And frankly, this obsession grew where I was just paying really close attention to what was happening in research. And just like every single week, there was a new research paper coming out with just some like monumental breakthrough that had my jaw on the floor. And at the same time, who's doing anything with this yet? It was mostly academic. And after a number of months back and forthing on this, we just decided that we had to go and finally build this company that frankly, I think we've wanted to build for a long time.
Yeah. And while John was going through this like paper transformation, he was in my ear telling me all about this. And I was walking around on factory and warehouse floors for the job that I was doing at the time. So I spent a ton of time looking at logistics companies, like looking at Amazon warehouses. And basically the thing that was pretty obvious is the part of those warehouses that had zero automation was the part where you have to like pick up and move objects and put them. It sounds very simple because any person can do it, but it's one of those problems in robotics that has been almost impossible to solve for the history of robotics. So we feel that now's the time to do it.
Let's dig into the why now a little bit more. And both of you touched on some. Robots are not new. We've had robots in both the manufacturing world and the logistics world and different parts of our world for many decades. But there is something different now that's happening, and which both means that what a robot can do and how it learns and how it might be applied in the real world could be actually quite a bit different in the next 5, 10, 15 years than it has been for the last 30, 40, 50. But I'd love to hear how you guys think about the why now and unpack what you think might happen in the next 5 or 10 years.
So you just said it. Traditionally, if you wanted to build a robot, first of all, you'd probably need a number of robotics PhDs or experts to come in, design the system, and write the explicit programming that gets the robot to do the thing you want it to do. And at the same time, to make this work, you would need to constrain the task that you want to automate such that nothing is ever out of place. So the robot can basically expect the object it's grabbing to always be in the same place. Or if you want to make it a little flexible, then you need to have some sort of computer vision algorithm that's detecting the object's location, but those algorithms historically have been quite brittle. And over the last few years, the same technology that powers ChatGPT, the transformer-based neural net, has now been started to be applied to robotic control. And instead of language, where for ChatGPT, you feed in a prompt and it predicts the next tokens, the words, the paragraphs, for robotics, it's actually predicting the positions that the robot should be in based on the inputs, which might be a camera feed, it might be tactile sensors, or it might be a language prompt where you're tasking it to do something. And so what this means is that we can now build robotic systems that can generalize to tasks that are unconstrained, much less constrained than historically they've had to be. So you don't need to account for the object being in that exact position. It can be in a variety of places. The overall process could be slightly different from installation to installation. And maybe with this, we can actually take a single robot and task it with doing a lot of things. And so therein lies the general purpose robot. The other side of this I'll quickly mention is we all now have probably seen all of these humanoid companies that are building robots that are supposed to move and behave like us. And part of why we're seeing this explosion is because these robots traditionally would have been impossible to control with traditional control algorithms. There are too many degrees of freedom, too many intricacies to writing an algorithm that can control my hands to do the thing I want it to. But with a neural net, you can basically program the robot with data instead of explicit code. And so this has been a monumental shift in robotics.
That's great. Why don't we double click into the specific problem you're trying to solve for your customers? Talk about who are your customers, what's the problem that you're trying to solve for them with Ultra's products, how did they solve this problem before they had an Ultra robot?
There's a story we got right when we started the company. We were trying to meet our first customers, and we were walking through a warehouse that often had to staff with temp workers. So these are people that the day before, the day of, they realize we have too much work for our full-time staff, we can't handle this. They bring in temp workers. And this company told us, we put in an order for 30 temp workers, 28 show up, and then only 5 come back after lunch. And running a business with that unpredictable of an input is its own problem, but I think it also speaks to like a deeper underlying problem, which is this job in most of these warehouses where you're standing in one place and trying to hit this metric 10 hours a day, it's a pretty unpleasant job and people don't like doing it. So churn is very high. It's not very healthy for the people that do it. it has all the makings of something you would want to automate. It's just been too hard.
On the flip side, when you think about bringing manufacturing back to the United States, bringing more industrial labor and productivity back, the challenge has been labor. And people look and they see robots in the news and they ask, aren't we using these to make our factories and our warehouses more productive? But historically, to be able to afford these systems and afford the engineering that goes into making them work, it has been out of reach for the vast majority of small to medium warehouses and factories. It's really only the companies that are at the top that have massive volume, that are highly consistent and repetitive. That's where automation has worked the best, but everyone else has been basically left stranded. And so this is why you walk into these warehouses and typically you don't see robots, and if you do, they're sitting in the corner with dust collecting on them. And so that is the other side of this, where now because we can build this type of flexible robot that we wish we had at our last company, the time is now.
So we talked a bit about specifically what does Ultra do, and a bit about the why now, and like how robots that you are building now weren't really possible 10 years ago. And we talked a little bit about the kind of customer pain points that you're solving inside warehouses and logistics businesses. Maybe is there any milestones or traction that you want to talk about? Still a very early stage business today. You guys started it less than a year ago, but anything you want to share about Ultra and where you are and where you're headed?
Maybe to start, we've been very focused on learning by working with our customers very quickly. Very early in the company history, just a couple months in, we signed 3 pilot partners for paid pilots, and since then, basically the last 6 months, we've been focusing on delivering the first systems to those companies. The way we've done this is by focusing almost entirely on off-the-shelf hardware. We've talked a lot about like how making these robots is possible, and it really comes down to the software, the control, the AI. And so we think it's really important to get robots into the field very quickly and build that data engine and start learning the customer use cases. So right now, we have 3 robots deployed. We have a 4th one going out in a couple weeks, which is super exciting. And we're starting to think ahead to the next generation design for the system and to signing our next customers. So it's a pretty exciting moment right now.
That's cool.
I'll just highlight that I'm pretty proud of what we've achieved in the last, frankly, just 6 months. Before very recently, the idea of going from just a concept to having multiple robots deployed in warehouses that are actually doing valuable work and generating revenue, that would have sounded insane. And to many people, it probably still does sound insane. But the truth is, we do have these robots deployed. So far, the feedback from our customers has been very positive. And most importantly, they're generating a lot of data every single day. And it's with that data that we're going to train the neural net, which will basically bring, at first, not full, but partial autonomy to the systems. And then eventually we'll continue to inch closer and closer towards 100% autonomy.
When your customers think about a world where Ultra robots are more pervasive, how do they think about that? This is expanding our capacity beyond what we are able to do today? Are they thinking about it as this is an efficiency gain and lets us be more productive with our resources, both space, people, all the resource inputs that go into their business? How do they think about it?
When we were working at our last company, Voodoo Manufacturing, and we brought automation into the warehouse, our team described the feeling to us as though they had superpowers, because they now had a tool that could work all day, every day. And as long as we gave them the right tool inputs, they could set that thing up to work all weekend. It helped them get done what they needed to get done. When we talk to most of our customers today, we start with the same thing. We are trying to give your team superpowers. And so what I think that really means for them is they take all of their best employees and they're like up-leveling those people. And those people can now manage a fleet of robots. And sometimes the robot needs more product brought to it, or there's a question like, was this packed correctly? I need a human to confirm. Those are the types of detailed things that we're working through with our customers right now. How do we deliver a system that lets your people really upskill, but also provide a lot of value for the business? Because at the end of the day, what we're doing for these companies is giving them the ability to scale cost effectively their fulfillment. They have customers that want to ship more product, they want it to ship faster, and they want to do it more cheaply. And I think we can help them with that as well.
We're in an exciting time in robotics, right? Where, again, the field of robotics is not new in any way, shape, or form, but it feels like there's this Cambrian explosion of robotics companies, and part of that's because of the why now that we talked about in terms of utilizing AI to train robots and enable them to do a far wider array of things than historically would have been possible. But I'm curious, for you guys at Ultra, like, how do you think about being one company in a world where many robotics companies are coming to the fore, and what do you want to, what's the mark that you want to leave with Ultra, either in your industry or in terms of breakthrough in your products?
At a baseline, it is incredibly exciting. Every day, every week, we go into the office, get to work, and we can feel the energy of the industry alongside us, pushing things forward at an amazing pace. Breakthroughs are not just in robotics, but obviously the entire AI space. Breakthroughs are happening all the time. And for us, it just feels like this amazing wave to be riding. We also simultaneously believe that the opportunity is massive, and more than massive, endless, right? If you think about what is the need or the desire for physical labor and productivity in the world, we believe that just the latent amount of it will supply every robotics company, if they were to succeed, with business for years to come. Don't just think about the labor that currently is done, right? Because the truth is, a lot of projects that we as a society want to take on are either too expensive, too dangerous, too difficult to organize. So you have to think about what happens if we make labor more accessible in those ways. How would we go and actually utilize that to build a better world, build cities, improve our factories and warehouses to produce things that we all want and need? So that is, I think, like our North Star. That's where we're heading, is we want to take our robots and basically use them to enable the industrial base, be it warehouses today, factories next, and beyond that, many other things. How do we enable them to increase productivity and produce goods and services faster at a lower price?
Why don't we shift gears? Maybe let's talk a little bit about working with investors, working with NextView. This is not your first company, as we talked about before. You've had VC investors in multiple companies at this point in time. Maybe this is not our first time working together. Maybe share the story a little bit of getting to know NextView, and I'm curious, you have many options of who you could have taken capital from. What was compelling about working with us now a second time, or even the first time if you rewind the clock?
My introduction to NextView was meeting you. I think there was just like, I don't know, a connection where I felt like you, Lee, would just be supportive. You'd have our back. In many ways, you're like a calming, supportive presence whenever we sit down for coffee or are on a call. So I think I felt that right at the beginning. And that is one of the main reasons I was really attracted to working with you guys.
Yeah, I'll also say that I think we just always have appreciated your kind of informed, present opinion and approach. Every time we meet up for coffee, you are there, ready to help us, understanding or trying to understand the situation that we're in. And yeah, I think like your operational backgrounds and your perspective on the industry and the general like startup market has always been incredibly valuable for us. And yeah, we're excited to be partnered with NextView again for the second time. And we're here now at this amazing retreat.
Tell us about what your experience has been thus far. You're one day into the NextView Founder Retreat. It's something we've been doing now just for a couple of years. Any thoughts or points of view as to what you've gotten out of this so far?
I think that the first thing I'll say about the retreat that I'm really enjoying is it's just grounded in a way that other retreats have not felt. So everything from the relatively relaxed schedule to the cabins that we're staying in is just like a nice level of reality, as opposed to some sort of dog and pony show where we're trying to be impressed or we're trying to impress you. That's one like immediate reaction. And beyond that, as always with these events, it's amazing to meet other founders who either we've met at events before and this is an opportunity to actually get to know them a lot better, or meet new people who are doing really exciting, interesting things in different fields and in some similar fields. That's always a pleasure.
As we work with a lot of different founders, we work with experienced founders like you guys who are building your second or third company. We work with first-time founders. We work with people right out of college to people who are a couple decades into your career. For yourselves, if you were to think about a piece of advice you'd leave a founder, especially a first-time founder who's early in their journey, what's a piece of advice you might leave for yourselves?
More than you think. We've had multiple times as a team, as individuals, where we've made a decision, maybe around hiring or around working with a particular customer or a product decision. And there was some reason why we felt like this is probably what we should be doing, but intuitively it felt like the wrong decision. And anytime that happened, it turned out our intuition was right. You need to build a good intuition, I think, as a founder through pattern matching and experience, but you need to trust it. And so when we started out, we didn't always have the confidence that I think we should have had to make the decisions we thought were right.
John, anything for you that you would, a piece of wisdom or advice you'd impart on a founder early in their journey?
Find great partners. Having great partners makes all the difference, not just in terms of having people who are smart and able to be productive, but in terms of finding a team that you can rely on and trust, that lifts you up when you need it or makes you better than you thought you could be. You said it really well last night that I loved. A really good team is like a flywheel. And yeah, when one person is being pulled down a little bit or isn't at 100% capacity, the rest of the team picks them up. And the way you do that is by finding a team that you can work really well with.
One more question. Rewind the clock to, you've been on an entrepreneurial journey across multiple companies for more than a dozen years. Rewind the clock and tell us about an episode early in your entrepreneurial journey and what was exciting about it, what was scary about it, what did you learn from it?
So,
what would you do differently with your more experienced founder selves?
we've got a good story. I think it represents just like the hustle that you need to have. So we were in college, it was our senior year, and we were working on this idea. And as we were approaching graduation, we eventually realized that I guess we need to figure out how we're going to keep working on this after school. And we probably need some money because we don't have any and we need to live somewhere. So we applied to a number of incubator programs at the time. We didn't really know that much about Y Combinator, but one of our co-founders read Hacker News. And so through that, we knew that we should apply there and to a few others. We ended up getting into one that wasn't Y Combinator, and they gave us a deadline. We needed to get back to them, I think, by Monday. And it was Thursday. And we hadn't heard back from Y Combinator yet on whether or not we even got the interview. So we emailed help@yc.com and asked them, hey, this other incubator let us in. Can you tell us whether or not we got the interview, just so we can maybe turn them down at the chance of getting into YC? And Paul Graham responds about 20 minutes later and says, can you get to San Francisco by Sunday? And we were in LA at the time. And we packed up the car, drove up to SF, went through the interview, and got in. And so that solved the problem. Okay, now we know what we're doing. It never hurts to ask for a little special treatment. And in that case, it made all the difference for us.
You never know. That's true in life in many ways. It can almost never hurt to ask.
Yeah.
You may not have a new window that opens up, but it's worth asking.
Yeah.
Anything for you, Max, that you want to share or reflect on from early in the journey?
Wow, early on. I think something that John mentioned around picking a good team and good people to work with. One of the signs that I knew we had a good team early on, so in college we were acquaintances. I wouldn't say we were best friends until we actually started working on the company together. And we moved into a house together our senior year across the street from campus, and we immediately knew how to have fun together, which is a weird side thing. You don't think that's necessary when you have co-founders, but something we said all the time is you have to laugh to keep from crying. And we knew how to laugh, and we lived together for I think 4 years until one of us eventually had a future wife that they wanted to move in with. But that was a great sign.
It was time to move out of the bachelor hacker house.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That was a great thing right at the beginning. And now continuing to work together, coming into the office every day, it's something I look forward to still.
I'll share something in the spirit of reciprocating. I'll share something which you may or may not know, but we here at NextView, we've invested in 200 plus seed stage companies over the arc of the last 15 years. We've been fortunate to work with several co-founders now on their second company, in fact, even one on their third. And you guys may not realize this, but as we were part of the investor base in the journey for Voodoo Manufacturing, your prior company, we always thought in the back of our head, this is a team that they probably have at least one more company, if not more companies in them, regardless of what happened with Voodoo, whether it was this 10, 15-year incredible roller coaster success or whether it was a company that didn't make it. And we didn't know that you guys were going to start a company, and we didn't know whether, if you did start a company, whether we would invest in it, but you may not realize this, but a long time before you started Ultra, we were thinking like, oh, this is a team of people, and it's not just me, it's other people at NextView, that we want to keep track of and keep close to, and hopefully there'll be an opportunity to collaborate again. Thank you again for letting us be part of this next chapter, and we're really excited about Ultra. I think the next 5 or 10 years of the world of robotics is going to be pretty remarkable, and we're thrilled to be part of it.
Thank you, Lee.
Thank you.